Welcome to Tune to Life. And this week, we're going to talk about something that, it means something to us. It means something to everybody, really. We thought we'd just talk about this because there's this elements of the past coming back. And history sort of repeats itself. But I don't think so. Sometimes there's a rhyme to this. There's definitely a rhyme to historical matters. And, in terms of modern history, what happened in Germany and the rise of Nazism. I'll tell you what we're talking about this week. We're talking about the rise of populism and the far right in Europe and UK. Now, I've been looking at this for some time now and just following what's going on and looking at the changing sentiment and landscape in Europe and also in the UK.
Yes.
As to what is going on. And it's quite scary.
It is very scary.
And we can probably say that some of the ingredients for what took place in the 1930s seems to be sort of rearing its head again.
That's right.
It's that now, and I've got some notes here, and it's just scary in terms of what I've found. I'm not saying that I'm an expert in this area or whatever, but it's out there. And if you want to do the research yourself, it's quite scary when you look at it. Now, making a real important point here is very important before we embark on what we, in our botched attempt to try to relate to everybody about populism and the far right, is that being a non-white person, it is of concern. And then a lot of people who are non-white, some of them aren't even aware, not even clued up, not even got their finger on the pulse as to what's going on.
That's right.
And again, some people who are white, they're oblivious to it.
That's right.
Just living in the moment of how things are, but not recognizing the country is going down a very slippery slope and how bad it could become.
That's right. Very much.
As a reaction to various poor decisions by governments.
That's right.
Yeah? So we've listed some elements, some poignant elements, because we're not going to go into anything to gross detail. It's just things that you need to be aware of and think about in terms of similarities where we're going, which is a concern, a deep concern, I think, for me. And where I think as UK, where we've moved, where we were and where we got to is night and day, but there is still so much to do.
That's definitely.
And I want to mention a few other little things. May not be so popular in this thought, but I think it's important that before we get into this, Black people have fought for some level of equality and some level of fairness, supported by some white people and the rest of other people, supported those endeavors. But by the main, we got up and fought. Now, a lot of those people that did that, so a lot of younger Blacks aren't aware of those people, not completely clueless to what happened. And clueless to what happened in recent history, back in the 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s and 80s. Some of the kids that were born in the mid to latter 90s and born in the early 2000s, completely oblivious to it.
Divorced to that,
Not aware of it is my point. Not aware. Completely not aware of it. And there are other things which we're going to elaborate on later. And that in itself is a problem, because if you don't know your past, there is a strong possibility that it could rear its ugly head again and repeat itself. Because if you're not aware of what's going on, history can repeat itself. Or at least those rhymes of the past can come back. And then we're seeing that. And look, I think there are issues. And the ingredients to that, just to start off, is really about these circumstances, how populism and the far right began. Now, I'm looking at, say, Germany, because that's the most recent thing I can look at in terms of, prior to the Second World War, into the 1930s. The Great Depression went around the world, swept the world, and the world found itself in gloomy circumstances, economic circumstances. All right, a lot of people left Europe because that going to America, thinking that they might find freedom and equity there, didn't really find what they were looking for. Some people found it, some people didn't, but a lot of people left. But the people that remained were in difficult conditions. Now, in particular in Germany, their situation was even more profound because of poor economic decision making. They found themselves in a double dip heavy recession, which led to huge economic problems, socioeconomic issues. Now, the problem is that that's what happened there in the 1930s, bad condition. Now, I'm going to be jumping backwards and forwards a little bit to give, because otherwise too much to give about what happened then and now. So I have to do it in tandem. So please keep up with me and hope I won't get confused myself. But talking about now, the context now, we have a situation where in Europe, the far right again has raised head because Brussels, Europe, as a nation state, is failing. Poor economic decision making, it's failing, and people are experiencing the economic downturn from that. All right. So the rise of the far right and populist views are on the rise, and have been so. I've been noticing, particularly, not saying it hasn't been there, but particularly since 2008, 9. Particularly since then. It's been around from before then, but particularly at a significant move. Now, in Germany, you have the AfD, which are making big inroads. Now, that's scary, and even the Germans are scared of it, thinking like, oh my God, are we going to go back to how they're not? Because they don't want anything like that ever again. But there's movement towards that direction. And there are other things in that which we'll come into, which I think needs to be mentioned because it is a particular problem. And you had the national rally in France. Remember, you had a huge rally in France where people were, one side was anti far right, one side was far right, thinking that we want our country back, France for the French, blah, 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 blah. And so there's a huge rally, and then there were all the attacks, the terrorist attacks that took place, the atrocities that took place, which furthered the anger and disdain against immigrants.
That's right.
So there's all that going on. And then we had in UK Brexit.
That's right.
Which is a reaction response. Because when the referendum took place here, right, the referendum was really something that the centre right of the Conservative Party pushed for. And in order to abate an all-out opposition against Cameron, he bent to their will and decided to do a referendum because really, ordinary people living their lives in the UK weren't calling for a referendum. This was a political move. They didn't say we want a referendum, we've had enough, we need a referendum. There was some people who didn't like Europe, some people were pro-Europe, but no one in there, nobody was jumping up in arms
for that,
wanting some sort of referendum. Nobody. A referendum was then talked about, we're going to give the British public, and people think, why? So a lot of people didn't go out and vote because they thought, why leave Europe? You know, what would be the benefits of leaving Europe? Anyway, so then the campaign started, and that gave the then UKIP which then transferred into the Brexit Party, the chance to push the anti-woke, the ideas about immigrants taking over, and they really pushed that hard. And the general working class people in this country jumped on that because they then felt that they were being listened to by that party.
That's right.
But the reality was it was poor economic decisions by the government through austerity due to the crash that took place in 2008 by the bankers, which had nothing to do with immigrants.
Yeah, well, that's crazy, isn't it?
Right? But people weren't able to think that through. But that was the reality. So we had Brexit, and then we're going to take back control, whatever. So we'll go into that a bit later. So there are all these things which create a real problem. So remember, as we said, sorry, just going back here. So I'm bringing the alignment to this. 1930s Germany, the Great Depression, widespread unemployment, economic despair, right? Nazis exploiting those points, which you could almost say, I'm not saying but I'm just saying the similarities.
In that, yeah.
Nazis were blaming the Jews, the communists, and the Treaty of Versailles, and the Romas that were there, and other minority groups, blaming them for the ills of Germany.
That's right.
We've got now Brexit, party, reform, blaming immigrants for the fall or demise of the UK.
Okay, that's right.
Excuse me. So we have some similarities there, right? Now, like I said, 2008 financial crisis, you had austerity in that process. With austerity, job losses, difficult with social services that were available to people, that affected people greatly, all right? And as I said, without going over it again, that were all the issues molded into one that people jumped on and felt that they would be better off without having these people here. Now, going back again, so I'm going forwards and backwards.
Yes, yeah.
Right? Scapegoating and xenophobia. Yeah? In 1930s Germany, my notes here, the Nazis scapegoated Jews, Romans, and minorities and propaganda to dehumanize and justify exclusionary policies. To justify exclusionary policies. That was going on then. So I'll repeat that. The Nazis scapegoated the Jews, the Roma, and other minorities in and around the areas, using propaganda to dehumanize. Keyword is dehumanize and justify exclusionary policies. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, very familiar.
Right? Today, far-right movements often target immigrants.
Yes.
Us.
Yes, yeah.
Muslims.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah? And refugees coming on the boats, portraying them as threats to national identity and security.
Yeah.
So you can see how it's paralleling very similarly as to what's going on. And it's a concern. It's a real concern because we are a minority.
That's right.
We're not the majority. We're made to believe that we're somehow growing into a majority, and that's not the case.
That's right.
So if more people band to these ideas, more people who are white band to these ideas, then what further will that give to people who are more aggressive, more abrasive in their movement or ideology? You see, that's the problem. Yeah. This is the problem. These are the nuances. So my point is, just to keep that there, is that if somebody who is white says, well, it's not great because I don't recognize my town anymore, don't recognize this anymore, da, da, da. But they would do nothing violent. They would do nothing of an aggressive nature to anybody. Those sentiments are going to give further to people who would be slightly more aggressive, slightly more abrasive, slightly more violent, whether that's verbally, physically, or whatever, to say, look, even those people are saying, and there may be some empathy backwards and forwards between those groups, right? That's a problem. And that's what happened in Germany. So today, we have the situation where the concern is, just like how in Germany, the great replacement theory, which is believed by the far right, that far right Europeans, and here as well, which has been adapted by far right populists here, that Europeans or whites in UK are being replaced or will be replaced by blacks and Muslims or browns by this particular date in this country. So there's this fear mongering
Definitely fear mongering.
that's going on, which is a problem. And you could say most balanced, aware, fair, white people will not jump on that idea. I don't know. I'll tell you why I don't know.
Okay, go on.
Because wherever people want to paint it to me, Brexit happened.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
51% of people voted.
That's the evidence.
Or not, albeit not everybody in the country voted, but 51% of people voted to go. So there is a significant number of people that really don't want to see our faces here, feeling that it's enough already. Yeah? And we have to be honest about that.
Yeah.
Some people say, oh no, because we don't want to be in Europe, because Europe is this and Europe is that. Yeah, I get that. There are people saying, well, no, I'm not racist, or it's just like Europe. But I think deep down there is this disdain about how the country's changed.
Changing, yes, definitely.
And they want something done about it. Yeah?
Yeah.
And that is what I believe is taking place. Now, nationalism and anti-globalism, yeah, in that process. 1930s Germany, the Nazis promoted extreme nationalism, rejecting international cooperation, and advocating for a return to Germany's glorious past. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, I'll just read this again. The Nazis promoted extreme nationalism, right? Extreme nationalism, rejecting international cooperation, and advocating for a return to Germany's glorious past. Today, populist movements, whether it's in Europe or here, are emphasizing national sovereignty.
That's right, they are.
Rejecting globalization, and a call to return to traditional values. Looking back at the past, honoring things like colonialism, imperialism, saying that, look, it wasn't so bad. We did great things. We should be proud of our past. And no discernment as to what that really means. But it's a movement back there. So you can see, again, the similarities. And I think these are things that are important to look at.
No, definitely.
Really important to look at. And how these ingredients that I just found, and anybody can find these, I'm not going into any depth, that is there. And so it's a concern as to where we're heading to. Right? And there's so much unpack, and I know I'm going to take some bit of time
Yeah.
doing this, but we're going to get to the other things that you
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
get
yeah,
to.
yeah.
But I need to set this as a real solid platform
Yeah.
for where we're going to start opening up, talking about many other things.
Yeah.
So you've got today's populist leaders in Europe have attacked the judiciary, the press, and political opponents, weakening checks and balances in that process. That's happened in France with Marine Le Pen.
Yeah.
Yeah? And her eyes are now firmly set on the presidency. Now, if you're not sure who Marine Le Pen is, she's the leader of the far right in France. And in France, 4 million black people, for example, living there.
Yeah, no.
Hugely more than here.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Loads more black people there than here.
That's right.
Yeah?
Mm.
Issue.
Big
Issue.
Yeah.
Right. And there's other things we need to unpack about that as well.
Yeah.
So we also have Poland. They're reading law accused of undermining judicial independence. The process there is that essentially they don't want migrants. They don't want anybody that doesn't like them.
Wow.
Period. And they're very open about it. And a lot of people are agreeing with them. So we've got, and the next thing I want to talk about is propaganda and disinformation. 1930s Germany, the Nazis used propaganda to spread their ideology, control public opinion, and demonize its enemies. Yeah? Today, social media, far-right outlets spread disinformation, conspiracy theories, and polarizing to content them, to manipulate people's sentiment.
Definitely.
That's what they're using. Social media in that process. Because they can't control the mainstream media.
That's right.
But social media, they use that.
Yeah.
And it's gathering traction.
No, it is. I think, you've got the likes of Nigel Farage with 1 million followers. 1 million followers.
Yeah. So we'll unpack all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's very, very important.
Yeah.
And the idea of fake news, targeted ads during the Brexit campaign, we all know that they had help in order to do that. But giving back to the historical element to it, again, the Nazis' rise was tied to unique aftermath of World War I and the Treaty of Versailles, which doesn't have a direct parallel today, but it was tied to that. What far-right movements today can be violent, they have not reached the systemic state-sponsored brutality of the Nazi regime. That's important to note, that it hasn't gone that far. Hasn't gone that far. But
I think there's
there is a movement there. Now, here the problem now, right? There's the EU and NATO provides frameworks for cooperation and conflict resolution that didn't exist in the 1930s. So those things will help. However, one must take note before I conclude on this. There's a very important point that next 4 years, a far right or populist, I would say a populist, not far from far right, a populist political party could be at the helm of this country.
That's
right.
Scary.
In 2027, far right leader, president could be in France.
That's right, yep.
And not too long, a far right political party in Germany.
Yeah. So you can see that all
In
along.
Italy, there's already a far right leader, right? In Italy, there could be, in Spain, there could be. So what would we have then?
I know.
What would we have then if by 2030, all the main leaders within Europe are far right or populist? What would happen? What would happen? See, there is a problem. We're moving towards this problem, and it's not being addressed because no one wants to look at it. No one wants to really look at it. Because they're thinking, well, these are just thugs. These are just people with thugs, whatever it is. And it's been dressed up with this idea about populism. Now, we need to go into some of these other bits and bobs that really, I'm going to chop back a bit, but I'm going to start off with legislation in the UK
Yeah.
that was fought for and pushed through. Like we had the 1965 Race Relations Act
That's right.
that had no teeth. No teeth. It was there, and it's great that it was made law, but there was no teeth. No one prosecuted because racism was so overt.
Yeah, it's in your face.
In the 60s. Yeah. My parents would tell me about things. It's crazy. When I went to school, people openly used blatant racism in general conversation.
Yeah.
In general conversation. It was normalized. Some people wouldn't use various derogatory terms. They felt it to be uncouth. But the sentiment, as in feeling, was there and alive. You know, we have to understand that where we're coming from. And a lot of younger people, white and black, don't know what went on just 40 years ago. 50 years ago. They don't have a clue what went on. That in the UK, certainly I can only really talk about London, that's where I was. That generally speaking, no one would want, a white person wouldn't want you in their house. And even if they were okay or cool about it, because they were concerned about what the neighbors would say or the neighbors would think. Because it's almost, we weren't seen as human.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah? Do you see what I mean?
Yep.
It's like having an animal in the house or some sort of, you see? So that was an issue. And to where we've come now, where a lot of those people have died out and those same sentiments haven't caught on in the same way, but the sentiments are echoed. They're there, you know, and this is still a problem. And we've got huge steps to make. We've got other legislation there. What's the other legislation we've got?
We've got the Equality Act in 2010.
There's something before then, isn't there?
Yeah, there was. I think it's Equality Act 2010. I think you got the Race Relations Act 55, which you just mentioned.
Speak a bit.
So you got the Race Relations Act. Which was obviously just
Race Relations Act, and there's various amendments. 1965, 1968. A few other bits and bobs, and the Equality Act 2010. You can't discriminate against your race, your color, your nationality, religion, citizenship, ethnic origin, and so on, whatever. Nationality. Yeah. And then from there, the act had teeth to actually do something about it. It's enshrined. So therefore, you could have people prosecuted as a result of that. Whereas back in the Race Relations Act, someone wouldn't write you a letter saying, we're not employing you because you're black. You wouldn't get that letter. Right. But someone could tell you, but nothing would happen. You see? So, but we've moved on quite a long way. We've made significant progress and as a result of that. Now, remember the Equality Act, there's something you need to understand here, and I think it's important to be mentioned, that other groups have had problems.
Yes, right.
I.e., people with disabilities, people who, you know, are gay,
LGBT,
LGBTQ. They've had problems as well. However, their campaigning sort of was on the back of what we did.
Did achieve, yeah.
They campaigned too. They had their own standalone campaigns, not saying that. But it's on the back of what happened with us. Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Where it opened the way for discussion. So when we had been demonized, demonized,
and I think on all fronts,
and had all sorts of problems and issues, whatever, when various political parties or the governments were open to debate certain things, they debated equality, and therefore they jumped in and said, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? And they enjoyed the benefits of those dialogues to make progress in their things. And that's not taking anything away from their experience. But again, here we are in a situation where it's going to raise its ugly head again. And who's it going to hit mainly? Who?
Definitely. Those from ethnic minority backgrounds.
Yes.
That's it.
Exactly.
I think that there may well be dynamics that will take place there, though, I think.
What are the dynamics you think will take place? To be clear, what are they?
So I think that what you will find is that there will be, some groups, disability groups, ex-minority groups, women, that will be aggrieved. Say for example, you've got legislation that's been taken away as a result. So making myself clear, as a result. So Nigel Farage has mentioned.
So if he does,
so if Nigel Farage comes into
power,
but
let's leave that bit because we're going to go into that later about that. Just talk about what you're saying about what the situation will be.
The dynamics. So I think potentially what we could see is that, say if you've got, say if you've got a woman, for example, and they witness some treatment in relation to someone that's black or ethnic minority, I think that the dynamic may well be then, look, the spotlight is on them. And actually, I don't really want to be under that spotlight, really, in essence. So it may be better that I turn a blind eye to that behavior and challenge it. Does that make sense?
But that happens anyway.
Well, it does happen anyway. It does happen
anyway. So it's no different.
Well,
it does happen anyway. People will always turn a blind eye to things. Not everyone will come up and say, but I think what the situation, what I'm saying is, to stay on the point, is that we're moving down that slippery slope quite quickly. And people often don't recognize it. They won't, because if you're not affected by it in any way, you're not going to. Right. So whether you're a woman or not, it doesn't matter. If you're a white woman who's middle class, it's going to affect you. Why would you be aware of it? Unless you put yourself in a position to want to know. So it's worth mentioning. If you're a person with disabilities, why would you notice it? Unless you put yourself in a position to know. Why? It's irrelevant at this point to even mention it, because it doesn't have any effect. What it does have effect on it is people of color, and a particular people with a certain religious belief who are Muslim.
That's right, yeah.
It will affect them in terms of what happens, because remember, what's happened is, this is really important. I don't want to move away from this because it's very important. Poor political, socio-economic decision-making by subsequent governments, getting it wrong, all right? Getting things wrong affects the people living in a particular town or city or area. Puts them in a situation where they feel disenfranchised.
That's right.
Economically poorer. When they do that, and on top of that, move people in who are migrants into an area, it's a recipe for disaster.
That's right.
Because you then give the ammunition to the far right, who always existed.
That's right.
Say, well, look what's going on here. Blame them to blame somebody, rather than saying, see what it is, rather than saying, look, it's a political party that's done it wrong.
And that's never looked at. That's never looked at.
Not really. It's mentioned to some extent, but never focused upon us to do the right thing. So, but the point is that people, a lot of people, are not concerned with those details. They're mainly concerned with, have I still got my job? Jobs are difficult to come by. If I'm in social housing, can I get somewhere to live?
That's right, yeah.
High rents, high mortgages.
Yep.
They're concerned with living.
That's right.
And the political decisions that parties make affecting them detrimentally, people get angry. And when they get angry, then other political parties can turn the heads and necks of those disgruntled people and say, look, the reason why it's a situation because they made bad decisions and these immigrants are causing your problems. And if you see your area changing, whatever it is,
That's it.
yeah, that's a scapegoat.
Yeah.
That's a scapegoat, right? That's a scapegoat. And that's what's happened. And that's what seems to be gathering momentum. And it's happening in Europe.
Yeah.
And it's happening here.
Too, yeah.
But unless it affects you directly, you're not going to see it. Until it's like a car crash, isn't it? You don't. If you knew 3 miles before it happened, then you'd be able to avoid it. But some people want to see it just as it starts to take place, and it's too late.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of and it's interesting because we're moved into a situation, I believe now, where a lot of rhetoric to talk about we live in a society where racism doesn't really exist. It's only the figment of the imagination of people of color because racism doesn't exist. We've moved way beyond racism now. We live in a multicultural society. Everybody gets on, everybody works well. Nobody is racist. There's no issues as such. Only little teething problems in terms of personalities. And some people believe that.
No, I think
Many don't, but some people believe that.
Yeah, I think it's
Right? But we're seeing something else,
that's right.
which clearly demonstrates it's alive and well. Racism is alive and well. Very healthy, thank you very much. Got a really good, strong pulse.
Appetite, yeah. Well, yeah,
Strong pulse.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what's going on. And people don't see it. And I think that it will start to rear its head. And let's look at something else that's going to really demonstrate this, right? We'll look at, got some notes here. It's very interesting. Now, would you say that Reform is a populist party?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah. So Reform is a populist party. So, rhetoric policies aligns up with populist movements, anti-establishment, dealing directly to the feelings and sentiments of the people.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
Because if the people didn't feel that way, they would have no following.
That's right.
So that means that there is a degree of resentment and racism to a degree in this country. Fact. So whether people want to believe that it doesn't exist or it's on a huge decline, no, it's there.
Yeah.
And it's growing, right? So, UK, I think your form, this from my notes, I think it's believes itself to be a challenge to the establishment, criticizing both Labour and Conservative, right? And for failing to address the concerns of the ordinary citizens, right? That's what I think. I think that there's a sentiment towards the elite. The elite are leaving the voice of the ordinary people behind. That Westminster is failing to hear the voices of the people. That's what's being pushed. See the similarities to historically what we were talking about before in Nazi Germany.
That's right.
And also what's happening in Europe right now. People believe, or say white people believe, that their voice is not being heard.
That's right.
Ordinary white working class people believe their voices aren't being heard. And they make up the greater majority of this country and in Europe.
That's right.
Period. Right? Now, you have a situation where its core message during Brexit, right, was to leave the EU now. He said the COVID-19 lockdowns were a farce. They said we should need to get out of anti-woke politics and sketch some of the net zero climate goals. And what do we see in America?
I know.
Trump also
That's
is a
right.
populist.
That's right. Yep.
You can see where all that's gone.
Deals. That's right.
So it'll be very interesting to see in the next few months what happens there
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
as he retracts policies that would have aided, supported um, minority groups
That's right. Yeah.
from exploitation. As he retracts those, what's going to happen there will give an indication of what may happen here.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Very interesting. Now, UK, just as in Nazi Germany, is talking about national sovereignty and British identity, saying we've lost our identity. Yeah? See, it's come back again.
Definitely.
Yeah? Which are common themes in populist movements. Not just here, but everywhere in Europe.
That's right.
Yeah? So, post-Brexit has shifted its focus to immigration and use of language, and language is part of the sentiments. But what I'm trying to say is that the rise of the far right and populism, you could say that the two are almost the same. It's, you could argue, is the far right clothed with the garments of populism? Or is it that populism has got the rucksack of the far right on their back? Which one is it? You could argue either way.
Yeah.
Which one it is. But certainly I see some sort of coalition or symbiosis between the two. I can see that. And people knowing that they're having struggles and difficulties now are angry.
That's right.
They're angry. We've got our NHS falling down. We have potholes in the roads everywhere. Poor decision making. I mean, recently, Labour government came in and said, let's do a few really tough decisions now. And the worst time. It's like you're losing your legs. And some say, look, I know you lost your legs, but I need to tie one arm behind your back. I need to give you mitts for your other hand, and we're going to muzzle you.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
No.
The policies that he's done now makes no sense at this current time. It's made it harder.
That's right.
And as a result, he's had to U-turn. He's crashing the economy further by poor economic decisions.
That's right.
Now, think about this. He's doing that. Rachel Reeves is making a bit of a mess. All right? Making a bit of a mess. So people are getting more angry. And he's giving more fuel to reform. And what's he doing to address the problem? Rather than think about, maybe to change our policies and make it more aligned to make things easy for people. No. What he's doing is videoing the border forces exiting people from the country, going into which is playing into the hands of the populist ideas. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. You couldn't make it up. So he knows he's weak or weakened.
Yeah.
So he's literally almost trying to align himself in some way to the ideals of populism and the far right. What? We already know the Conservatives with Kim Badenoch. She's a mascot there. She's aligned herself to the right, right? I don't know if they're centre right, but I certainly it's moving more right than a lot of people would be comfortable that they're moving. But definitely, but look at this, all right? This is what makes me laugh. Chairperson for Reform is an Asian man.
That's right. That's right.
Right? The current leader is Kemi Badenoch. she's a black woman.
That's right.
Both sort of spokespersons for the party.
Yeah.
That is moving further right, and they're people of color.
I know. It's crazy. It's mad. Mad.
You can draw your own conclusions from
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
wherever you think that is.
Yeah, yeah.
I think people, you can draw your own conclusions. Why you think is I've got my conclusions as to why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
If you went to hunt sheep and you put a wolf in there, sheep are going to run. But if you sent a sheep, a wolf in sheep's clothing, sheep aren't going to run. And I would suggest that potentially that they are the sheep in wolf's clothing.
Yeah.
To soften the look, to soften so you don't see
Yeah.
and hear. The two don't seem to work together.
That's right.
Yeah? But that's another story. So, let's look at here. Reform UK's policies and populism, right? Opposition to lockdowns at a time, anti-work agenda, skeptics on net zero policies, and immigration control. That's the big things. France, Italy's league, Matteo Salvini, emphasis on sovereignty, opposition to globalization, anti-establishment rhetoric. It's all there. I think that in all of this, there's a very important things to note in this whole process. Very, very important things to note. I think that the country needs to wake up, number one,
Yeah.
to see what's going on. And I think that Labour needs to get their act together, but they probably won't. Too much infighting. Same with Conservatives, infighting. So I think that the next election is really reforms or Nigel Farage's to lose.
Definitely. That's the
To
worry.
lose. They're not going to recover. I would believe that Keir Starmer, his tenure is going to be probably impossible by the summer. Yeah, maybe before the end of this year. I think it's going to be impossible.
Yeah.
And that will leave the party in disarray.
Okay.
And I think that potentially, after 3 years, going into the fourth year, maybe there may be call for a early general election, of which, if things go on as the way they are, which it seems they are, Reform would win landslide.
That's right. Step into
Landslide.
Yeah.
Landslide.
Yeah.
Yeah? Unless something untoward happens. Because we have to understand what takes place in America will be a huge indicator to what's happening in the UK.
Yeah.
So, let me explain my thinking. If there is economic prosperity in America,
people are going to be looking at that.
That's going to be a big issue.
Yeah.
It's going to look good for Farage.
That's right.
But I believe there's going to be socio-political issues, big ones. And I don't think that he will be able to manage that. If he takes away, as in Trump takes away all the safeguards to promote equality, safety, and so on, that's going to lead to huge problems. But that would divide America. It divides America in so much as that if people there are racist and feel quite open to to demonstrate their racist ideology
Okay.
without redress, that in itself is going to be a problem. Simple things like this. We all need to eat. We all need to pay our bills.
That's right.
And if you, in America, as a person of color, goes to get a job and you can't get a job because you know you were discriminated against because of your color, and there's no legislation
Education
there
to
to
back you
support you in
yeah,
that,
yeah.
you know you're laid off your job. It happens anyway.
Right, that's right. That's
Right?
right.
It
That's right.
happens
It's
anyway.
universal,
Let's
that's
not
right.
see, oh, it doesn't happen, you know. It happens anyway. But if it starts to increase
Increase.
in numbers with no legislation or safeguards to back you, support you, it's going to happen even more so. So that means that potentially you may find the biggest the numbers of people of color who are unemployed
Sorry,
will increase. They're already high,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it will increase further. And you may find that here as well,
Yeah,
although there are some differences.
yeah.
There's some unique differences
yeah.
there to here.
There to here. I was thinking actually. I mean, I'm thinking to myself. I mean, I know we're talking about employment, but I'm thinking about, say, for example, the criminal justice system over there. I mean, there's a significant amount of blacks that are in that system, and clearly, in terms of equality, that's not playing. You know,
When that's a different thing altogether. That's about economics has a lot to do with that, right? Economics has a lot to do with that. So if you want to get into it. So, you know, we're not going to go into that too much
okay,
because
yeah,
we're going
yeah,
to go
yeah.
right
No,
off
no, no,
point.
no. Okay, no.
But the situation there is that, yes, people commit crime, whether they're white, black, whatever it is, they commit crime. But where people come from very, very destitute situations and where there's poor employment opportunities, then people will take to the streets to commit crime
Crime.
or to do drugs. They get arrested, that's where they end up. Right? Now, there are other issues as well.
Yeah.
The other issues are somebody who is not criminally motivated, wrong place, wrong time, no money to afford a good lawyer, are incarcerated,
That's right. As a result of that, yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
who are innocent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's been many cases
Yeah, of
of
course.
black people of
Definitely.
color being incarcerated because they don't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a lawyer, a good lawyer, incarcerated. Yeah, that so that will increase. Same thing here
Yeah.
as well. There are miscarriages of justice that
Justice.
happen here,
Yeah.
but without legislation in place, I mean, it happens here anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know statistically
That's right.
that if you're a black male and you end up in the judicial system for an offense that's imprisonable, you're 5 times or 3 times more likely to receive a custodial sentence
That's right.
than your white counterpart. That's just a fact. Right? So if there are, you know, policies, guidance that's taken away in this country, then you'll find those numbers will increase.
And you, I mean, so the funny thing is, I mean, I was looking at Nigel Farage, and one of the things that he is looking to put in place is more pupil referral units. And I think there's a massive, let's say, concern there in terms of that. People might say, well, okay, that's good because you're going to be supporting those people that are out of school, that have got excluded. But for young black boys, they that find themselves as a pipeline of getting excluded within schools. I mean, I got a story where, for example, I know someone that was, he just moved from a new country into this country, and as a result of that, he went into his new school, got involved in a fight. Now it wasn't he was defending himself,
Yeah.
and as a result, the school excluded him. Now his dad wanted to complain about it, but the authority said, "Look, don't do that. Don't complain, and we'll sort out another school." What happens? He goes to another school. Another situation occurs where he gets excluded. Then the father said, "No," puts his foot down, says, "No, I'm going to appeal this," and actually he appealed the decision, which was good, and he's able to get into another school. But I'm thinking, with those kind of legislation's been disbanded and removed, I just think that we're going to find ourselves, say a trailer load, but kind of a lot of young black boys finding themselves in these people referral units. And we know that the track records of them achieving GCSEs, qualifications, are very, very low. And as a result, where do they go? They look at crime. And I think for me, that's a significant concern in terms of where we're going. If Nigel Farage gets in and then he then looks to disband and make those measures in place, which I think is a concern.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are lots of other things. That's just one area.
Element, yeah.
I mean, there are lots of other concerns. My big concern is this legislation that's been fought for. If those legislations get repealed somehow, or the teeth of the legislation are retracted, making it impossible to exact the protections that is afforded by those laws. Now, if that happens, which I reckon probably may happen, then there's a big problem, because it allows, there is always what we call now unconscious bias that takes place within certain organizations, within wherever. It always happens. And that's going to be an issue. But I think part of the biggest problem when you look at as a society, not just focusing down on just race, but the biggest problem is that there's the potential could be a huge divide, because we have not touched upon, which is the most important point, is that now I brought up the parallels between 1930s Germany, what happened then, to now. Gross similarities, but some very important differences. And the differences is that now we have far more integration, right or wrongly. Certainly by younger people. When I say younger people, people who are 40 and below. Better integration. Friendship circles are different now. Will include people with different ethnic backgrounds, will have different friendship circles, which is good, a positive thing. You have more mixed relationships, different ethnic mixed relationships, which is good. And with that, you will have people having a better understanding of other people and seeing people as human. Because remember, part of the biggest problem that took place in Nazi Germany was the dehumanization of people. And there's almost a dehumanization of, say, the people coming in on the boats. Now, I'm not saying that is right, but looking at it, if you're able to take a 2,000-mile, 3,000-mile journey in a boat, that's a desperate situation.
Of course, without a doubt.
Secondly, if you're putting over 25 grand or 20 grand, whatever the price is, as your life savings, that's a lot of money for one-off chance. So you've got to look at that. Thirdly, you're in government. There's a response now. And you don't know what to do? You can't do anything about it? There's something wrong with you. As a party. Not making the proper checks and balances about what you're going to do with these people. Put them in the hotels. That's cost millions of pounds a day. That's going to wind people up.
That's right. Yep.
It's going to wind people up. Because if you put 100, 200, 300, whatever it might be, in local hotels around the country.
That's right,
4-star, 5-star hotels are booked out with migrants in areas that are already deprived.
That's right. Think about the resources in there, healthcare, all that type of stuff, just being sapped as a result of that. People are going to be pissed off. I've got to wait 4 weeks for a doctor's appointment. Why? It's all of that.
Exactly. So you can see poor decision making by successive governments ostracizing, enfranchising the local communities or local sort of white communities,
Communities,
whatever.
yeah.
You can see.
Mm.
And then, you know, far right,
Just
populist people
yeah,
come in there and just
yeah.
clean up. You can see it.
Yeah.
It's what happened in Nazi Germany. You can see it.
Yeah.
Where it's heading to.
Yeah.
And this is a real problem because if it does rear its ugly head and Farage gets in there, is the party sensitive enough, grown up enough politically to recognize if they get this wrong, it's going to blow up in their face big time?
Yeah.
Are they able to be aware? And the reason why it'll blow up, if they really mess it up, is because we're a lot further down the road than, say, in Europe.
Yes, yeah.
In Europe, in my humble opinion, I think that there are more black people, there are people of color there throughout than there is here. But I would say that, just looking at, say, blacks in Europe, they haven't had the same sort of political successes that we've experienced here.
Yeah.
Just a moving forward and equality. They've not really made those inroads.
No, they haven't.
They haven't.
No.
And that's a problem for them, right?
No, definitely.
And I think that, for example, say with people from maybe Pakistan or India, whatever it is, or who are Muslim, they live in a very close-knit type of community and farm their money back into their communities. And, you know, they will do the best they can in their communities, which is understandable. But that's very similar, say, how the Jewish community was living back in Germany.
That's
see?
right, that's right, yeah. Similarity there.
Similar, where the money's going back in there. So it's easy to point the finger.
Yeah.
But my difference is, where I was saying earlier, how it would blow up in the face, is that irrespective, there's still integration in this country. Like it or not, there's integration. And people intermarry, mixed relationships, children whose one parent is who's brown, one parent who's white, one parent is white, one parent is black, one parent is black, one parent is Italian. You know, just a whole mixture. And that is going to make it difficult for this populist ideology. And people as well, not just that alone, not just that. Think about this. When I was growing up, you had clear divides. Blacks there, whites there, very clear divides. And it rarely crossed over. It did cross over here and there, but not really. Now you have, you know, black kids who have white friends who stay over at their white friend's house. You have white kids staying over at their black friend's house. You have Asian kids who have black friends and so on. So there's much more intermingling between younger people. So therefore, when something like this happens, reform comes in. And if they go down that aggressive path of disenfranchising people and separatist ideology, if that were to happen, I'm saying if, I'm saying it will do, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be very tough. Because somebody who is white will say, no, you can't do that. My best friend, I mean, literally, my best friend is Asian. My best friend is black. You know, I'm not going to let that happen. And you'll find a whole swathe of people who will not stand for that. Right? Let me give an example. You may find somebody who is in mid to latter 50s, early 60s, right? Who grew up at a time where racism was open, you could say what you want, almost do what you want. And they may even have some race ideas. And their parents may well have been racist, right? Now, they've got a daughter. Just imagine a scenario. They've got a daughter. And the daughter meets a black man. And she loves him. And he's like, oh dear. Grandfather He's thinking, oh no,
Here we
what
go.
you do that? I don't. But he's like, oh, it's my daughter, and he's sort of like would prefer that she didn't. But anyway, before you know it, bang, grandkids are there.
Yeah.
He loves his grandkids, so he's softened his approach, his ideology. It's sort of going out the window,
Okay.
right? Grandparents getting old, eventually dies.
Mm,
That's
mm,
gone.
mm.
Now, Farage comes in and says, anti this, anti that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, this guy, who we're in his 60s, maybe like, well, yeah, but he has black grandchildren.
Yeah.
Yeah? He's got grandchildren. So, see the conflict.
Yeah.
And she may well have broken up with that guy, you know, how relationships work now. Her kids are black. So she's not going to jump on that. You see? So what I'm trying to say is not going to be as
Yeah, it's cut and
easy.
dry. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it's not going to be as easy.
Mm, mm.
It's not going to be like how it was
Yeah.
in Nazi Germany.
Yeah, yeah.
Although some of the ingredients, some of the circumstances
There.
are very similar,
Yeah.
which is giving rise to them, but it's not going to be that easy to employ the same tactics. And the same for America.
Mm.
It's not, even though Trump is there, it's not going to be that easy for him to do all the things he wants to do. It's not going to be that easy.
I think it'd be interesting to watch your space.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that we need to watch what happens in America to see what happens here, and also what happens in Europe.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny actually because I was thinking about the differences. One of the things I was thinking about in terms of Afro-Caribbeans and Africans, Black Africans, in terms of Europe and UK. And I was thinking about the fact that we have, obviously, you've got as you mentioned earlier on, you spoke about obviously the Race Relations Act. You know, you've got these equality acts that have kind of assisted, that Black people have worked towards, that have assisted to enable a bit more fairness in this country, which I think is the case. And I think, you know, when we look at kind of like Black Africans who predominantly are in Europe as a case, let's say their plight their experience is very different, and you can be asked why. And I think one of the things that we spoke about was the fact that they are, if you have a black one, they're from colonies from Africa, and so for example, if you've got a person that's been brought up in Africa that goes to, say for example, France, they won't. They've been brought
Say,
up.
for example, if they're Congolese or something like that.
Yeah.
And they go, or Senegal or whatever it is,
They've only been
and they
brought
go to France,
Yeah, they've
which
only
is
been-
a French colony,
colonies, yeah.
and then there. But I think what you're trying to say is that if they're in,
then
there's a sort of a master and sort of subservience, isn't there, in that sense. So if you're colonized by a country, then you're dominated by, and you're almost subservient. So, but when those people go to France, they don't really have the same sort of voice.
That's right.
Because they're used to that sort of domination, if you like, to a degree.
That's right.
And therefore aren't in a position where they would argue in the case. But then in the Caribbean, a lot of countries were colonized. Jamaica was colonized. But again, independence was granted 1962, for example, in Jamaica.
Yeah.
But coming here, the difference is Black people experience gross racism, of which there was a response.
Yeah, I think
And there's no response
over there. Yeah,
not really.
And I think it's funny, really, or say funny, strange, in the fact that you have Black Africans that obviously, you know, in their country, predominantly Black, they come over to, like, say for example, like France, and they just don't understand what this is. What
I mean, the racism,
what racism is. Yeah.
Because they experience racism.
That's right.
But when we talked about this, that if you come from a country where it's predominantly Black and you don't experience that racism,
how do you?
Then when you go somewhere, they are not able to recognize, even know what it is.
That's right.
And believe potentially that it's to do with maybe their personality,
That's right.
maybe some of their behaviors. They're not understanding what racism is.
Yeah.
And so I suppose you could assume they're having a hard time to understand it, why somebody would not like you
That's right.
or hate you because of your skin color. For them, I'd imagine it's not making any sense.
That's right. That's right.
And it can't be that. It may be because they're thinking maybe individually, maybe because of my behavior, where I maybe, this or that or whatever. And they don't understand because they speak French.
That's right.
So I think that's where part of the problems are. And if, I mean, that's another thing. We've got a point, but the point is that it's difficult for them to make those sort of inroads they need to make there. But we've been over this topic already. We're repeating ourselves, but yeah, I think that's the main thing.
Yeah.
But you have anything to add? You'd like to add to populism?
I think I was talking to two boys this week, two heritage boys, and I was talking to them about racism, and it was almost it was the invisible elephant in the room.
But we're talking about populism.
Populism, yeah.
Populism,
Yeah.
racial rather than
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the concern is, and footage that you sent me just recently in terms of populism, was more about how those far right groups, potentially in this country, are gearing themselves up for something yet to come. And I think my concern, especially as a black
we
man,
talked about that. What's coming
Yeah.
is they're centering all their hopes and dreams on reform coming into power,
that's right.
which looks like as though it may well do. It's on trajectory to do that.
Yeah.
So we've covered that bit.
Okay.
And if they do come in, then that will see, for example, I'd imagine very, very abrasive movements to exporting, moving out migrants back to their countries where there might be a risk of exploitation. They're just going to do it. When it comes to housing, there'll be no more priorities for people, minority group housing priorities, none like that. When it comes to judicial elements where people, it's already bad already in terms of those will be scrapped. A lot of things that will protect people of color from discrimination will probably be retracted, right? And they want the idea of meritocracy to be paramount, which can't exist. It can't exist because you have to assume that every person in a position of power will look at everything based on merit, how good you are, without having any bias.
Yeah.
And that has been proven to be untrue. It's not there. We're not there yet. We're a long way off from that. So that's what for the future they're looking at.
Yeah.
And that's what the fear will be. Because if they come in, the fear will be it will set us back another 80, 90 years back.
Yeah.
And the offshoot of that, the outcome of that will be, if that does happen, is that young people of color won't know what hit them. Because a lot of them are completely oblivious to recent history, oblivious to it. White and black, completely oblivious to it. Completely oblivious to it. So there are going to be some very interesting times, but again, there's a caveat to it. The caveat is that it's not going to be easy for them to do it, as in reform. It's not going to be easy. There will be kickback, and a lot more kickback than they would expect. And just by putting a few, brown faces or maybe a black face in front of it doing it doesn't mean, it's going to happen, because they're so out of touch that it's moved on since 1960. It's moved on since then, because I can assure you that people in the Reform Party don't hang out with people of color regularly to know what the general feeling and the general ideology is, general talk, behaviors, mannerisms, understanding, or intellectual capacity is right now. So they will get a rude awakening, I think, as that goes on. And the general public, it will just lead to further affray and difficulties, I think, in the country. It will set things back. It will set things back. But maybe, this is me being optimistic, we're running short of time. We've gone way over. But just to think about this, it just may be that it's a wake-up call that needs to be addressed. And by that, I'm saying that some people here believed we'd gone over and above what needs to be done to address inequality. We've gone over and above. And inequality does not exist.
No more. That's right. Yeah, that's the rhetoric.
Yeah, we've gone over and above. We're doing too much. We're playing to the hands of these woke people. We've gone over and above, and stop it now. And if it does stop and change and goes back 40, 50, 60 years, it's going to be really harsh and really awful. And they need to see the ugly face of what it used to be. And then recognize, oh my God, that's how it used to be. This is what's happened. Oh my God. And then people hopefully may unify as a result and say, never again. You see? Because you'd have thought that would be, say, in Germany, but it's rearing its head again there.
That's right, that's right.
You'd have thought that in Europe, but it's rearing its head there. It's coming back. It's coming back. You never thought it would do, but it's coming back. And it's gathering momentum. Slowly, but surely, it's gathering momentum. Because even the most, not even the most, but some people who would regard themselves as liberal, now their heads are being turned to listen and be empathic to far-right views. Maybe not digesting all of what's being said, but empathic, sympathizing, I should say, sympathizing with some of what's being said. Yeah, and that in itself is a problem. And the same thing's happening here. Won't come out and say, oh, I hate this. No, they don't hate you, but they're sympathizing to what's being said. Like, yeah, I believe that, and I believe that, and yeah, deep inside, but we'll never say it. That's what's going on. That's the only way. And we'll see. We will see in the years to come whether he does have the support, because it potentially could be a landslide victory.
Yeah.
And that would be interesting.
Yeah. I think the country's been in such discontent that that's the only answer.
Yeah.
And that's the concern, I think.
But we'll wait to see what happens. I think we need to keep a real good lookout for what happens in America as to what will happen here, and keep our eyes out what happens in Europe. Yeah. I think we need to do that because, again, for people of color, traveling and moving around in Europe could get a little bit dicey.
That's right.
So, we have to be careful and look and keep our eyes peeled at all times. But anyway, guys, I hope you found what we're talking about interesting. Just an idea. We want to look at what's going on out there and how it could affect us here. But I think it's something definitely worth looking at, irrespective of your ethnicity, irrespective of your position. It's really worth looking at and being aware. Because I think if you are white and you've not wanted to look at this, it's worth looking at it to see how you could potentially be sucked into this situation, how you could be sucked into really empathizing or sympathizing with the situation, not wanting to, but probably drawn into it. So it's good to look at that and see, make sure that you're not used for the wrong reasons. Yeah. And if you're a person of color, Wake up. Wake up. Wake up and understand what's going on. And yeah, and that's it. So it's enough for us. So listen, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. We do appreciate it. And please subscribe. Some of you are subscribing, but we need you to subscribe and hit that like button and share. Thank you very, very much. Really appreciate it. Take care. Bye from us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.